We'll do it.
Hi guys, this is Be Bold, Speak Truth, and I'm here with Barry and Jess. And don't go away if you're just tuning in.
Please.
Don't
Stick around.
Yeah, don't leave. You're definitely going to be blessed by hearing this story for sure. And we're so grateful that you guys tuned in today. We'll wait a couple more minutes to have some other people join in. But while we're waiting, Barry, let me ask you really quick. The word bold before that day on June 21st, 2013, what did that word mean to you before all this happened?
You know, I knew what the word meant. To be fearless, to really stand out, but to not have fear. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But it was that day where it had a new meaning for me. You know what I mean? It was something so random, but something that it was coming from you, a complete stranger, that really, really gave me a new understanding of what being bold was. So, yeah.
What about for you, Jess?
I actually never really even thought of it. You know, when I think bold, I think those bold markers that my parents would buy me when I was a kid, right? So, you know, when Barry kind of shared the story that time ago, you know, I was pregnant and he kind of stepped out of the house for a little bit. But the fact that, yeah, a complete stranger came up to him and he came home with an extra flower that day, and they're like, oh, here, this is for you. I'm like, oh, how sweet. It was the act of your kindness and your bold willingness to step out that, you know, really changed the course of our lives, I think. You know, I can't imagine if that time for tea date never happened, this would have never happened. And it's exciting that we get to share that story today and
for sure.
and give everyone an insight of
we'll catch you up.
How this happened.
Stay tuned. You don't want to go away
Yeah.
because we're going to tell you the whole story here in just a minute. You know, for myself, you know, the word bold kind of had a negative connotation to me. It kind of was outspoken, rude, be somebody being bold, like maybe in their opinion.
Sure,
maybe you're trying to explain something and they're just like you have that example of bold-faced liar. So it kind of has like a negative, you know, connotation. And I never really thought of the word bold so much as a positive thing. So this for me it wasn't just life-changing for you guys, but it was a step of faith and a step of boldness for myself too that also changed everything, and more so just over the last few weeks, because I mean, how God just orchestrated us meeting again, you know, 4 years later, mutual friends. Like even when you were there that day, we knew the same people, but didn't know each other. So it's just amazing that we've come to this right here. We're all sitting here together.
Yeah, it's just crazy, you know. And like I go back to my favorite scripture. You know, this is a scripture that my dad had on his license plate since I was a kid, and it's still his license plate. It's Romans 8:28. And we know that all things work together for good to those who love God, to them who are called according to His purpose. And it's just crazy because the way I understand that scripture, you know, the word all, it literally means all. And so, like, I don't know where to start, but if we can just go back 4 years ago, so today's the 19th. So on July 24th, it's coming to
Fridays aren't the anniversary.
Right. Oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that. Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah, this Friday will be exactly 4 years.
Yeah. It'll be 4 years. And, you know, just to give a little background on that day, so my wife and I, she was pregnant with our youngest, and you guys will be able to meet them soon. But we were on the fence, right? We were those churchgoers that we're going back to church, but there was like moments where we would go and then we would stop. But it was our kids that they would wake us up on Sunday, like, "Are we going to church?" Right? And we were like, "Oh,
well, if they're saying, then
we
better go."
You know what I mean? It's like if they want to go, we better get up and go. You know?
Right.
And so there was this consistency happening when we were showing up to church. And I mean, I wasn't a bad father, you know, but I do think that I was doing a little neglecting on my part as a father, because we were young, and so, on the weekends we would party, and we would, give my kids to my mom. They would watch them. But, when we started going back to church and our kids would want to go, we'd be going every Sunday, and we would see the change. And so it was just a point in my life where I realized, like, I had to create some consistency because before, like, I knew I was a good father, but I think I wasn't paying close attention to that role, right? And so, when I noticed the change in my daughters and how they would come home and they would talk about what they learned, then I wanted to be more intentional about the things that I did with them. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And it's something so simple with Time for Tea.
Was that your idea, or was that?
It was her idea. Mm-hmm. And here's
awesome.
and I'm gonna be completely honest. Like, the night before, I had gone out, and so I was hungover, and my wife woke me up, and she was like, "You're gonna miss this thing, right?" And so, like,
they knew they were going.
They knew they were going, but
it was
like,
already a plan.
It was already a plan, but
I needed my time by myself.
So she's waking me
yeah,
up.
I'm like, you better take
you
those
better
kids.
Go. And like I said, we were on the fence. You know what I mean? But like, the fact that I got up and we showed up, and like, I was present, and I wanted to be intentional with spending that time with them at Time for Tea. And for those who don't know, Time for Tea is this awesome place in Niles. It's like your real life tea party. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, so with my two older ones, we will have like pretend tea parties all the time. But my wife told me about this place. Like, I gotta go. And so when we walked in, it was just very elegant. We had to get reservations, and we walked in, and just fancy china. I was the only guy.
Flowers everywhere.
Flowers everywhere. But like,
pastels.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so like you walk in, it's not the typical place you would see somebody like
For
myself
sure.
walk in.
Because you were the only guy.
I was the only guy there, right? So when I walked in, like, I could totally sense that there was people kind of like eyeballing, like, who's this guy walking in?
Yeah.
But I it didn't matter. I didn't care. I just wanted my daughters to know, like, Dad wanted to put myself in an uncomfortable situation, because it was uncomfortable.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because I'll be the only guy in there. So we walked in, and we sat down, and there was a chest with hats where, colorful hats. I was like, I'm getting this pink one. And so the girls, we all put hats on. We came, sat down, and there was other people sitting, and I noticed Andrea was sitting by herself against the wall. And then there was another table. There was about 4. It was 2 older ladies and then their younger offspring. And so we were just minding our business and just having a good time, having fun, and living in the moment. And so it was, I could sense that they were, I could always, like, I would look up and I could see that people were staring, but I was just trying to pay
Look
no
away.
mind. Yeah, I was trying to pay no mind,
Yeah,
I was
that's
trying
totally uncomfortable.
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
but it was that.
Maybe they thought you were The Rock. I'm just kidding.
I'm off the look now. But
you scored a point
yeah,
there.
thanks. But the first lady walked up to me, and she came and she said, "Oh, are these your daughters?" And I responded with, trying to teach them how to be a lady. But when I said that, she probably thought, I was like, how are you going to teach them how to be a lady? Mm-hmm. But for me, it was coming from the perspective of a son raised by my mother. Coming from, a grandson raised by my grandmother, a nephew raised by my aunties. And so, like it's all those in one that I really wanted to apply at Time for Tea. But like, in our culture, in the Tongan culture, we hold the women in our lives on a pedestal. And so, like, there's a level of respect in our culture where you don't say profanity in front of your sisters. If there's anything inappropriate on TV, you turn it off. And there's just a level of respect. And so that's something that I've learned from my, the mothers and my sisters in my life. And so when I made that comment, teaching them how to be a lady, because I think there's a tendency for men, right, as fathers, to kind of push that responsibility to mothers,
Sure, I think so too.
because there's that macho mentality. I was actually talking to my buddy on Friday, and I was telling him about what we're gonna do today, and he was like, "Yeah, man, that makes so much sense because, like, when we were young, my dad would always buy my sister Easter basket, but he would never buy me Easter basket because he said that men don't. That's not what men do, right? And I think, like, as fathers, we rob ourselves from this opportunity to really connect with our daughters. Simple things like painting your nails, or like having them just like
Do your makeup.
They've
done that a few
They've done that
times.
with me, and it's like just really not caring, but really like trying to enjoy those smiles, that them laughing at me when they see me. Like just being vulnerable.
Because pretty soon you're going to turn the corner and your daughter's going to be 26. Like
Exactly.
mine are. My oldest is 29 and my
Yeah.
youngest is 19. But I remember those times when
Yeah.
we would do fun things. And honestly, it flew by. And now there's grandkids that come along. So
Yeah.
what's awesome for me is that, I guess you look back now that you have grandkids and you see, okay, these are the things now that they're into their adult years. That, okay, I see what part of that I played as a parent, and who they are today. And some are good. Some are, you're like, okay, I know I did that.
Yeah.
I have to own that, right? But I think with my grandkids, it's like I get a do-over.
Yeah.
I mean, even just, I think the word is that when you were saying these things, the word that came to my mind was influence.
Yeah.
You're influencing them. You're influencing them for their future. You're building confidence. You're putting yourself in uncomfortable situations so that when they're in uncomfortable situations, they're not going to be uncomfortable because that's what they grew up with.
Yeah.
Right.
So I mean, your
it's like
influence
he's
is huge.
Teaching them that confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, after having that conversation with this lady, we had like another 20 minutes there, and that's when you walked up, right? And it was weird because it was like, another lady walks up and like, yeah, it's me, the father. Like, yeah, what do you want now? No, just kidding. But I will never forget what you said. Those were powerful words that you said to me that it triggered something. It really did, because you came up and you introduced yourself and you told me that you were a writer and that by me being there inspired you to write. But that you came to write about something totally, a totally different subject. And then you asked me to check this blog later on. And you walked away. But the thing that you said was that I inspired you. And so me being there, right, inspired you. And that, after going home and I read the blog and I was in tears of what you read or what you wrote down in this blog. But the words you inspired me was like tattooed in my brain. Because all I was doing was being a father to my girls, stepping out of my comfort zone. I was bold, right? I was being bold that day, to really put myself in a place where you don't really see fathers go. But
Right.
you, on the other hand, were bold enough, and that's like when you shared with me when we saw each other at the graduation. You were telling me that you weren't going to come up, and like, man, I'm so grateful that you came up. Because it really changed my perspective on, like, in public, right? So, I'm a good father, Every father could use a little bit more work, but after that day, I knew how important it was, because there's always somebody watching, and there's a tendency. What happens is, like, when we're out in public, you see it happen all the time, where a child is acting up. And then you'll see the parent that responds negatively, or you'll see the parent that responds positively, You'll see the mother who's like impatient and just will backhand their kid in public. Then you'll see the father who's just like overly passionate and really like affectionate with his son. But both times, you know, if it's negative or positive, what I do is I look at myself, like, am I being that? Am I that harsh? Am I that loving? And so when I realized, man, I'm always paying attention, you know, like I'm taking notes when I'm out. So like you were taking notes, right? You were taking mental notes, seeing me there. But like it taught me, like I take mental notes as well. And so it changed my whole outlook on just being out and realizing that my role as a father is bigger than I realized, right?
Yeah, yeah. And just touching on, in addition to our role as just, you know, who we are in Christ, that, you know, we also have a responsibility to everybody that God puts us in contact with every day. Like us meeting is no coincidence. Me meeting your wife's no coincidence. Us meeting, you know, 4 weeks ago is no coincidence. So, you know, back then when I was sitting there against the wall and I was writing, and I was inspired by what I was inspired by when the lady asked you that, what you responded with. That is what inspired me. I think I was blown away just seeing you there in general. But when I heard you say that, I'm teaching him to be a lady, I was just, wow. You know, a father is taking on that. Because I think when you were talking about your nephew or your cousin that wasn't getting the Easter baskets, I think that, you know, men in just general, a lot of them don't cry. You know, boy, you don't cry. You're not supposed to have feelings. You're not supposed to have these things. And we're all people. We're all made in the image of Christ. So it's like that's his sensitive side. That's his empathy side. He has all these different things. And I just think it's important. And I think that sometimes fathers they think that they don't know, so they just don't do, you know, because they don't know what it's like to be a girl. So they just kind of stay away. And I'm not saying that's bad, because I think the majority of men feel that way. But I also believe that, you know, God does equip us with everything that we need to raise our children.
Right.
And so whether it's we don't have confidence in something, maybe with I can't relate to something my boys are going through, but, you know, it shouldn't stop me from at least saying, hey, I might not understand, but help me understand, or show me, but to not distance. I just wonder how much closer relationships would be if, like you're saying, you're mindful, you want to influence.
No, yeah, totally. Because, you know, so my oldest is 12, and then my middle is 7, and then my baby's 3. And so they're kind of spread out where I'm like enjoying, you know, Kiara, she's about to go into her early teens. And then, you know, Evangelia's 7, but then Kalina, there's like a good spread where Kalina's like still the baby, so I can still hold on to that. Kiara's like too cool to give me a kiss in public. But, you know, it's just, I love my relationship with my daughters, and people know this, you know. And the thing is, you know, the compliment that I get, that we both get, you know, if it's from teachers, you know, I mean, I'll let my wife kind of share just what are some of the comments that, like, her teacher, Mr. Val.
For 6th grade, Kiara like got recognized at the promotion, and he's just like, she's a leader. She's always making sure her classmates have their work done, you know, and if they're too embarrassed to come up and say that they're struggling with something, Kiara's the first one there to be like, hey, they need help, you know. And we've had those parent-teacher conferences with the kids' teachers that are always so positive, and I'm like, man, maybe we are doing something right.
Yeah.
Sometimes we beat each other up as parents, that it's just like, we could be doing this better, we could be doing that better. But at the end of the day, we're raising, I think, some pretty awesome kids.
Yeah, I think so.
And just encouraging parents out there, just love on them. You know, sometimes it's hard, and sometimes, I mean, on the car ride here, it's like, Mom, 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 and I'm like, what? You know, Bear's like, patience. I'm like, I know. You know, so it's just really trying to work and be the best possible parent that we can be, you know.
Yeah, so, we ain't perfect, but we're working on it.
Right.
But like, go ahead.
When Barry came home that day, what did he say to you, and what was your reaction?
He handed me your card. He handed me the flower first. I'm like, oh, how did it go? And he's like, hey, check this website out later. This lady just came up to me and is going to write something about me and the girls. I'm like, what? why? What? You and the girls, like, what were you guys doing? Were you guys out of control? You know, kind of like, you guys must have done something wrong. But then I remember logging on, and I mean, I shared that blog with everyone. I mean, I read it, I was in tears. I would send it out to people. Their response would have me in tears. It was just, I mean, such a blessing to have you write that and have that for us to cherish forever. You know, it's like, framed up in our bedroom,
bedroom, yeah.
And
it's
just
a daily
amazing.
reminder, right?
Yeah, it's just like, wow, okay.
So if you don't mind, I'm just going to read it really quick. So it goes like this. Today I wanted to talk to you daddies out there. Oftentimes it seems as if my words of advice, encouragement, and my lessons learned are aimed at my heart sisters. So today I wanted to honor you gentlemen, and this one's for you, my heart brothers. After church, I spent the afternoon in downtown Niles visiting antique store to antique store and picking up treasures from the past. For those of you that are not familiar with the Niles area, here's a little history lesson for you. In 1912, Niles was home to one of the first motion picture companies on the West Coast. The S&A Studios. Charlie Chaplin, Bronco Billy Anderson filmed some of their now famous silent movies in downtown Niles. So then basically I go in to explain, what the service consisted of and, sorted tea sandwiches and things like that. I was sipping on tea and writing about a totally different subject than what you are currently reading at the moment, and in walked the three of them. I could tell from the stares I wasn't the only one who noticed them, and that is the truth. They caught my eye, the two young girls sitting at the table next to me. Their faces told the story of feeling so grown while sipping on afternoon tea. Croissants and sandwiches with jellies and jams lined their china plate. Their giggles and smiles brightened the room with each tiny bite they ate. The stares were present from around the room. You could hear the gossip and talk, a whisper here and a whisper there of what the girls had brought. He could feel it too as he sat there. He acted like it wasn't a bother. He carried himself like the proud one. After all, he was their father. How cute are these your daughters? A lady walked up to say, but the answer the father gave inspired my writing today. I'm teaching them how to be a lady, he said. His words sunk deep in my heart. It was clear what I needed to write about. I knew exactly where to start. He was not concerned how he looked to the ladies in this tea room today. What mattered most were his daughters. Being their daddy was genuinely portrayed. A tea party back at home, no one would have ever known. He chose to have it in public. The true love of a father was shown. I hope these girls remember how their father went out of his way to make sure his girls knew they were special, because we all saw it today. So often we think it's our job as mothers to teach our daughters to be ladies, but wouldn't it be great for fathers to take the role every now and then, if just for one afternoon while having a tea party with their daughters, to live in the moment? Living in the moment to me is when you forget about everything else around you and you make the person you are with feel like they are the most important thing in the world. As I gathered my things and got up to leave, I grabbed the perfect red rose from my plate and I walked over to their table and offered it to one of the girls so that they both would have one to take home. I introduced myself and I told him that I was a writer and how much his being here today with his beautiful girls touched my heart and inspired me to write. I asked for his permission to post this story today the way that I saw it. I handed him my business card and I wrote my blog address on the back. I hope eventually he reads this blog and saves an extra copy for his girls to read when they're older. I want them to know how their father lived in the moment today, and in doing so inspired a total stranger, me. So I wonder. 4 years ago. Yeah, 4 years ago. Yeah. 4 years ago Friday. 4 years ago Friday.
That's beautiful.
So, this, when, I feel that sometimes, God just puts things on our heart to he knows when, people are hurting, and he knows who is going to be obedient and listen, who's not. And so the great thing about it is that when God's will is going to be done, if he puts it on my heart and I don't do it, it's still going to happen. He's just going to choose somebody else to do it, and I'm going to miss the blessing.
Yeah.
I would have missed the blessing of sitting here today and meeting you girls and getting to grow up with your girls and watch them grow.
Yeah.
I would miss all that. Somebody else would be getting to do that with you.
Right.
So I'm just going to throw out two quick examples because I know that it's hard for some people because some people stepping outside in their comfort zone, stepping out of their comfort zone, it's really hard for some people. Like even public speaking, some people really, really struggle with that. So I'm just going to give you a couple of ideas. So one would be, I often pay for the car behind me in a Starbucks, just randomly. Sometimes I feel it, sometimes I don't. I don't do it all the time. But what if, in addition to doing that, what if you grabbed like a little just plain, blank note card and you sat down in your living room table and you wrote that person a note? And you just said, hey, just want to know whether you put a verse, maybe just put something inspiring like, do your best today. I have confidence in you. Hey, if you're going through something, you could get through it. You pray about it, ask God. God already knows who that person's going to be, right? He already knows who that person's going to be. So after you pay for their drink, you hand the card to the drive-through lady and you say, hey, can you hand this to the guy in the car behind me or the lady in the car behind me? Can you, and then maybe even put, because we'll get business cards by then, and then put a business card in there and they can go to our website and then they can post what the difference was, because I think that there's so much power. There is so much power in sharing our stories, because what it does, it's the difference between the person saying, I could never do that, to look at that and go, oh, I could do that. I don't have to talk to anybody. I don't have to, it's extra $5. I can write something. But the difference is you have no idea how that's orchestrated and how much that person might need to hear that day. Maybe they're feeling like a failure. Maybe they're walking into, just they have a bad work situation. You brought them through the day. Like we don't know. We don't know. We're just supposed to be the seed planter,
Nah, that's awesome, because and ever since that day I've been really intentional, right? My wife knows this about me, where if I see something, like I'm a social guy, I'm a social butterfly. That's just, I feel like that's a gift from God, but I walk in a room full of strangers and I love to meet people. That's just who I am. But it's taking the initiative, just like you said. So when we talked, I shared on the first video how the missed opportunity. Remember when we talked about the missed opportunity? Well, last 2 weeks ago I went to Houston, and it's funny. I don't know if you saw the one I did on Instagram. So I shared a missed opportunity about this mother who was on a flight to Chicago, and I saw her just handling her baby, just being patient. The baby was just fussy for 4.5 hours. And I just watched her and was encouraged by her, because she didn't, act out of character towards her baby. She didn't get upset. She didn't get angry. And I told myself I was going to say something to her, but I didn't, because I was with a bunch of other musicians, and because we were walking pretty fast. When I saw her at the bathroom, and she was walking out of the bathroom, the baby was fine by now. It's just happy. I didn't pull the trigger, right?
Yeah.
And so, that happened earlier in the year. So 2 weeks ago, because I shared this video, right? I shared this video on Facebook. I told myself, man, if this ever happens again, I'm going to pull the trigger. So guess what happened?
It did.
We are in.
Wow, that's awesome.
So we're on our flight to Houston. We went out there for a speaking seminar. And, it's funny how we're talking about speaking. So this, in a sense, is public speaking, right? We're speaking to, just a social media outlet that is kind of a public forum where people are tuning in. So I see Patty and Glenna. What's up, guys? So this is something that we have been working on. You know what I mean? And so, but back to my flight on Houston, I was on this flight. It's a 4-hour flight, and to my right is a mother with her baby.
Yeah.
And the baby, it was like a 2-year-old girl, but she was just fussy, but screaming. It was those cries that are like, you know what I mean? Those like, that will break a window. And so I remember telling my buddy that I was with that I'm gonna say something. So we walk out.
Like, what are you gonna say?
Yeah. So we walked out, and I said, dude, he's all, what are you doing? I was like, I gotta find this lady, the one with the baby. I'm about to pull the trigger. And he was like, we're looking for her, and then we didn't see her. It's like, where did she go? And he's like, oh, we'll find her at baggage claim. Sure enough, we walk up to her, and we saw her at baggage claim, and I tapped her on the shoulder, and I was like,
The Rock.
Yeah. Yeah, right. But I see her, and I'm like, I was on your flight, and I just want to tell you how much you really inspired me today, because I love the way you handled your crying baby on this flight. She was like, oh, that was sweet. And her mom was standing there too. And both of them were like, just really thankful. Like, thank you for saying that. That was very sweet of you. But I was like, well, I just got to say, like, I got 3 daughters, and we flew to New Zealand, and, I just know how it is. But I just really thought that you inspired me because of the way you handled that. You're doing a great job. You know what I mean?
That's great. That's awesome.
So, like, it's being intentional, because you created this page to really encourage people, to push people to, like, take the initiative.
Right.
And so it was fun, because I walked away from that, and I realized, like, man, that felt good. And I don't know how it made them feel, or what's going in their heads right now. But I know that they won't ever forget the Tongan guy that walked up to them and said,
and hopefully they'll play. Hopefully it will make them mindful, right? And
Exactly.
this whole movement, when I thought of doing this, it's almost like paying it forward, where you somebody does it, and then you're like, hey, that was so awesome. So it makes you mindful, like when you're sitting there at a Chili's and you see, a single mom there with 3 kids, and the babies are, fussy and struggling, and she keeps her composure, and she's calm and everything, and she's not, getting upset or yelling or anything. And then before you leave, you walk up to her and say, hey, I remember when my kids were young. I totally remember it. Seeing you today takes me right back, to when my kids were young. But I just want to tell you, you handled yourself with such grace. You're a great mom. And walk out, oh my gosh, like that would probably just, but it's being mindful, because I think that a lot of times we really do see it, and we think it, like you said, we think it in our mind, but it stays there. Yeah. It doesn't come out. It doesn't come out. And I don't think that we were created for that to be that way. I don't think that we were created to have empathy and see something and speak. We're supposed to do everything we can to build our brother and sister up, right? Words can tear somebody down, and then words can build them up. And I just think that we need to be word builder. I mean, we need to build people up. And I just think what it does is it teaches those people that you've touched to be mindful, so that they will look at the next situation. Yeah.
I mean, for me, even too, just being very content in my role as a mom and a wife, that I didn't think that I can be bold and do things like this. I was very comfortable with thinking my role was just that. And going to church and hearing them say, God's going to use you in a mighty way. God's going to use you in a mighty way. And thinking, well, he is using me in a mighty way. Okay, I'm a mom and I'm a wife. And God's going to use me in a mighty way to the point where I don't get uncomfortable. So that means I'm not stepping out of this house, because in my mind I was trying to make it work. Like, okay, God's going to use me in a mighty way, because I'm going to train up these kids the way that they should go. And they are going to go out there and reach the lost. They are going to go out there and do mission work. They are going to go out there and win souls for the kingdom. And my job is to train them up. Right. Then turning to the role as the wife, like Barry is going to do all these great things, and I'm going to be that support for him, because I didn't think that I was bold enough to do that. And it's crazy that once you realize what God created you for, it's like, dang, be bold and step out in faith, because it's me now that is going out and reaching the lost. It's me that's going on mission trips. It's me that's winning souls for this kingdom, and that's something I never would have thought I could do.
That's so awesome.
Because, I was very content and comfortable, and who wants to be uncomfortable? Nobody. Right. But once you take that step, it's like, I'm right here. Yeah, right. This is something that I would have been like, Barry, you go ahead and take care of business. I'll stay with the kids. Yes. And I'll be here to say, good job when you get back. Right. And now, it's crazy. Right.
Just watching, just hearing it now, there was a point where, there was this complacency, and it was like this stagnant faith for both of us. But in the past 2 years, I watched my wife just like flutter. You know what I mean? Like, she just really blossomed and just really grown in her faith. And just hearing you talk about it now, it's just, like, you've come a long way.
Oh, yeah.
And like share about the video at Inroads, how you're like nudging me.
Oh, okay. So when we used to go to Inroads before it was Cedars, Barry, the whole point of us coming to a closer church was because Barry wanted to get more involved. And, you know, I was very much a churchgoer that liked to go in and leave, and I don't want to talk to anybody. So it was funny because we're, you know, doing the morning announcements or whatever, and it's like men's ministry. And I'm like, Barry, that's you. They want you. And it's like men's breakfast. And I'm like, hey, you should check that out. Men's retreat. Hey, why don't you go for the weekend? The next thing that came up was women's breakfast. And he goes, hey, why don't you check that out? And I said, forget it. I'm never going to push anything on him again because he's going to force me to be social. And it's just crazy that that's where I was before, right? And now it's like, wait, there's a retreat. Oh, sign me up. I want to do this.
Yes,
I want to do
yes,
this.
yes,
and it's just like
yes.
now our hands are in it because finally I got out of my comfort zone and was bold.
Right.
And
I think too, as women, too, that, you know, our identity, I think, can get so lost being a wife and being a mother. And, you know, working, if you work outside the home in addition. I just think you're so many things that we forget who we really are. And I think the transformation in myself over just the last 3 years for my own life is that, you know, I did get lost along the way knowing who I was, but what I discovered in trying to find out who I was, I understood whose I was. And there's a huge difference between who you are and whose you are. Because when you know that who you belong to, and you know, you have a Father in heaven that, you know, can do anything. I mean, we were just talking about it in a Bible study on Monday night about how God just spoke things to be. Yeah. Let there be light. He didn't have to do anything. It was just his word, just the power of his words created this everything in this universe. Yeah. So what I was sharing with the ladies is that it just hit me like how powerful that really is, and that whatever it is that we're going through, he loves us so much that if he wanted to, he could speak that to go away. Yeah. He could say, that's going to go away from you, and you don't have to go through that, and this is going to go away and not bother you anymore, and this, you know, marital problem, or this, you know, work problem, or this financial issue, I could just speak it away. And, you know, why doesn't he? So if he loves us that much, why doesn't he? And I just thought to myself, and I share with the ladies, that the reason why he doesn't is because there's something that's going to happen in that that's going to make us better. Yeah. He's working things for our good always, even if we don't see it. So whether it's going to draw us closer to him, whether there's a lesson that we're supposed to learn, or whether, like you were saying, maybe somebody's just watching us, how we handle it. Yeah. Maybe they're just looking at, hey, that's a horrible thing for that person if they've lost a child, which I've known women that have lost children, a divorce, something very major in their life, and how they handle it. You know, people just come back and look at them and say, wow, like, she handled that with such, I don't even, like, they look at themselves like you're saying, could I do that? Yeah. I don't know if I could do that. So it's pretty powerful. We have about 5 more minutes left. We're going to wrap it up, but I wanted to also bring your girls in here, and I wanted to, especially the 2 older, to ask them what they thought that day. Do you want to share anything else before we grab them?
You know, when I saw her at the graduation, one thing that kind of struck me was when you were talking with my wife and I was talking with your husband, and one thing I was sharing with him, I was like, man, your wife has this gift, like just putting words together. And I was explaining kind of what you were saying right now, right? Like, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, right? And then the Word became flesh, right? And then Jesus spoke with authority. And so in that, and I thought about your words and like the power of that, and when you told me that you kind of stopped writing, I was like, what the heck? Why would you stop? You know, like, you really have changed my life, you know? And so, it was just kind of going off of what you were sharing about just awesome. The power in our words. There's power in your words.
Yes,
you know?
there is.
So use them wisely. I need you guys to
sorry, that's my hand.
say what's up to my. So this is Kiara and Vangelia.
And I was pregnant with this one.
And this is Kalina. And so these 2 were the ones that were at Time for Tea that she saw us that day with. But Kalina is my little 3-year-old. She's the boss.
Yes.
Yeah. You're the boss.
But yeah, I have the best daughters, and they are. I just love watching them grow. Real quick, if we can just Kalina, can you tell us 3 things you're thankful for?
Oh.
thank you for family. And thank you for Jolene and Uncle Saya and Trace.
Oh, the dog Trace too? Okay. That's my brother and his girlfriend.
And thank you for my mom and my dad work in my sister's school, my school.
Hey,
Thank you.
thank you. That's more than 3, but I'll take it. What about you, Evangelia?
Thankful for family, friends, and food.
I'm thankful for family. Also thankful for the church and community and all of our friends.
Awesome. So you girls that were there that day at the Time for Tea, do you guys remember that day?
Yeah.
Do you remember that? Were you excited that your daddy was going to take you there for the day? Tell me about that day.
We were surprised.
Yeah?
We didn't think that he would take us to the spot.
Yeah, it was like kind of random, but you're like, Dad, you're taking us?
It's a cool place, huh?
Yeah.
So what did you think when I walked up that day?
And I was thinking, who is this lady?
Same thing, Mike?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been cool to talk about that day because, and that's something that I really want to be intentional about, to explain to them. 4 years later, this, Andrew is back in our lives, but there's a movement happening, right? There's that respond and effect,
Yes.
right? There's something happening that's literally bigger than ourselves.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's keeping them kind of in tune to the whole thing because I told Jasenia asked me, so are we taking the kids? I was like, why wouldn't we? It's like, yeah, I already told Andrea. It's like, there wouldn't be no story without
That's
these
right,
kids.
yeah, that's right.
So
That's
I'm
right.
like, I'm grateful that, the people get to like meet these girls and just know like our roles as parents is to raise them in the ways that they should go and to share with them these acts of boldness
Yes, for
that daddy
sure.
lives out, right? And that, Andrea is now part of the family that you get to influence them, in ways that you can. And so God is up to something, you know what I mean? And I got to thank you again just for that boldness because it's really created a boldness in me, and just a small act of boldness is really, now I'm teaching that to these girls.
Yes.
It's for generations
Right,
on,
right.
you know what I mean?
Right. And to the Harris family, if you guys are watching, we got to say kudos to you because
Yeah.
if it wasn't for Ethan's
Yeah,
graduation
graduation.
party, so Ethan and my son Angela are best friends, and they grew up at Fremont Christian, and so yeah, if we wouldn't have been there that day at the graduation party, and you guys, we would have never met.
We
so.
wouldn't be sitting here.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
for sure. That's for sure,
Yeah.
sure. So I would challenge you guys to continue to think about your 1 to 2 people a week and make that a constant thing. Share it with your kids. Like you said, they can take that to school. They can be mindful and say, hey, Mommy, I saw a little girl sitting over there having lunch by herself. But, I was bold today, Mommy, and I went over and I talked to her. Like, we can teach our kids this now. I mean, I don't think that we will ever be able to change the world and make it a peaceful place while we're here on this earth as one person, but as a movement, as a community, we can make a difference. We
Right.
truly, truly, truly can. We truly, truly can. So I thank you guys for joining us today, and we're hoping to do more things like this and interviewing different people. If you have a story that you want us to feature, hit Barry or Jess or I up and let us know, and maybe you can sit here or we can come to you, and we could let you share your story with everybody, or you've done something, or somebody has blessed you in a way that has spoken boldness to you. Share it with us. Let everybody know, so that those people that aren't sure if they can do this or are a little apprehensive or in that comfort zone still, that they can realize that they can also be bold. So
Yeah. And thank you to those who have shared on the Be Bold page, because I read those and I'm inspired by those and encouraged. So yeah, just I want to encourage anybody else, if you have any experience that you've gone through, like, you don't realize how that can benefit others by just being bold and posting that on this page. So thank you
For
guys
sure.
so much.
thank
We love
you.
you.
Say bye, girls.
Bye.
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 All
See you
right.
later.
Peace.